Alright, what up guys? Now, I've been getting a lot of questions about Dark Harvest, Is it good? Is it the new best rune for Katarina? Everyone's been telling me like, yeah, dude, Dark Harvest is broken. I love Dark Harvest. It feels so good. I'm never going to go back to Electrocute. Dark Harvest is clearly better. And this was before the nerf too. So I was reading it and I'm like, this rune just doesn't sit well with me. So obviously I did some playtesting and I have some final thoughts on, Dark Harvest versus Electrocute. I feel like a lot of what people were telling me was very preemptive. But ultimately, after testing it out myself, I knew that I was right about it in the first place. Especially after the hotfix where they nerfed Dark Harvest damage a little bit. That's when I knew that Dark Harvest was clearly just not better than Electrocute. Now, I want to first start off by explaining that Katarina's laning phase is like super important. And that's where she wants to find her lead so that she can start snowballing the game, start pressuring the map and whatnot. Dark Harvest doesn't really pressure the lane as well as Electrocute does. Electrocute, you can start proccing it early. You can start proccing it from level 2. And it's like super good. You can 100-0 people once they misposition themselves in the lane. And then you can just get a kill off that. And that creates a giant lead for you. Because ultimately, one kill in lane can lead to multiple more kills later on. Now, Harvest, compared to Electrocute, doesn't do the same thing. You can't all in with Harvest very well. You have to poke them down and get them low in order for you to proc Harvest. But getting them low is going to be the hard part, because there's a lot of champions that can deal with Katarina and control Katarina in lane to the point where, like, if you go for these pokes, you're ultimately going to lose the trade, especially if they have Electrocute. If you're versing Electrocute when you have Harvest, you're going to be losing a lot of the earlier trades. I think Dark Harvest shines when they're like lower, under 50% health. But the problem is getting them under 50% health in the first place. Electrocute is super good at just creating pressure and letting them know that if they step on this dagger, I'm gonna proc Electrocute on you and you're gonna take a fat trade. And that's where a lot of the pressure comes from in lane when you're versing Katarina. The moment you miss position in the lane, you're gonna be taking a lot of damage. I mean, with Harvest, you can, evidently do the same thing. You can set up daggers and then once they step in it, you go in, chunk their health and then walk out, right? But it's not as punishing as Electrocute. So in terms of like lane pressure, Electrocute is like way better than Harvest. And I think that's like pretty much the sole reason why Electrocute is just better. Because you want to be able to start pressuring early on in the game, especially in the early laning phase, and try to get a lead from there using your power spikes. Your level 2 power spike, your level 3 power spike, and your level 6 power spike. Harvest doesn't do as much damage as Electrocute until it starts scaling up a little bit. And then Dark Harvest can end up doing more damage than Electrocute. Dark Harvest is a scaling rune, so you don't have that much damage early on. And I feel like with Harvest, the best position you could be in lane is by poking them out, getting them under 50% health, and then start bullying them from there. But the cooldown is really long too. It's like 45 seconds. Compared to Electrocute, that's like 25 seconds. So there's more room for you to pressure with Electrocute than Harvest. You have to follow the conditions that Harvest needs in order for you to proc it. Now, I feel like where Dark Harvest shines is in the mid game when Dark Harvest has scaled and you're starting to get into that skirmish team fighting phase. Harvest can proc multiple times in a team fight because of the resets. And that's like super good. Once Dark Harvest has scaled and it starts doing a lot of damage, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage to everybody every time you get a reset. So I feel like that's where Dark Harvest is better than Electrocute. But the problem is getting to that point in the first place. In order for you to carry games, you're going to want to find a lead as early as possible and push it as far as you can. But your plan with Harvest is to pretty much let it scale and then, nuke people later on in team fights and whatnot. And that's not a very consistent way to win games. You want to be constantly winning your lane. That's like the most consistent and sure way for you to actually carry and win your games. So putting yourself at a disadvantage in lane where you have to just sit there and farm and wait for Harvest to scale before you do damage, it's just not a very good game plan. Now Dark Harvest is like a really fun rune to use because it works so well in like team fights and skirmishes. So for those of you guys who actually want to use Dark Harvest, I'm gonna pretty much tell you how to use Harvest and how to use it effectively. So Dark Harvest is gonna be a very situational rune. You have to look at the matchup and see if you can get away with Dark Harvest. If you're confident in your laning phase without needing Electrocute, yeah, you can go Harvest. Because when you go for an all-in and you're sure that your damage is enough for them to get low, for you to proc Dark Harvest, you might catch them off guard from that Harvest proc that you get. And then you just start to Ignite, and then if they flash out or whatever, you can like E in, finish them off, E out. But against somebody who's very hard to deal with in lane, a good example would be like Yasuo, you're not going to be winning these trades because he just has more sustain damage, and you needing to get off all your damage to get him low is a risk because Yasuo is evidently going to be out damaging you with his autos, and if he hits his Qs, then you're really going to lose those trades. And if he throws out a wind wall and blocks your Q, then you're pretty much fucked. I think Dark Harvest can actually work in like farming lanes. So let's say like maybe Galio would be an example where you're just kind of forced to farm out the lane and you can't really kill him either. So in that sense it could work because you're relying on roams and skirmishes to get ahead. So in that sense Dark Harvest is okay because you don't actually need Electrocute to win your game. Because since you can't really use Electrocute in lane anyway because Galio is just so tanky with Aftershock. Your main goal with Dark Harvest is to just farm up for the mid game and try to stack it as much as possible and then come in like a fucking wrecking ball in the mid game when you start team fighting. Remember your matchups. Some matchups is going to be really bad. If it's a really easy matchup, you can actually get away with Harvest. And matchups really depend on how well you play against them. If you think that you're in a good matchup for yourself and you know the matchup very well, then you can take Harvest and then you won't really feel like the downside of Harvest in lane. But even in an easier matchup, if the matchup is really that easy for you, Electrocute is definitely going to be so much better just from the amount of damage that it gives early on. But if you want Harvest to work, then those are my suggestions. Farm out early until you get to the mid game and then start team fighting as much as possible. Definitely take smart trades and try to roam as much as possible. And I'm not saying just perma roam because that's a really bad idea in any situation. Constantly look at the map, constantly look at your side lanes and see if you can gank them because that's probably going to be your main source of stacking your Dark Harvest. Overall, I think Electrocute is just better than Harvest. Electrocute is more consistent, it's better for laning phase, and laning phase is just super important for Katarina if you want to snowball your games. If you don't have that pressure in lane, then you're evidently going to be going even in all your matchups, and you don't want that. You want the enemy mid laner to be behind, and you want to get a fat lead as soon as possible so that you can start pressuring the map as soon as possible. I'm probably going to be making videos on Harvest just to show you guys what I mean. So if you guys want to see that, make sure to stay subscribed. I'm going to try a bunch of different things that can potentially work on Harvest, you know, like tank cat and like try different builds and stuff like that. Because you know I love playtesting. If you like the content, stay subscribed for more. Like and comment to support the channel. If you want to see me streaming, follow me on Facebook. Facebook is going to be where I'll be streaming most of my games. If you want to follow me on my socials, I have Twitter, Instagram. All the links to the socials will be down below in the description. I hope you guys have a great day. Play smart. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. I have Biscuit. Yeah. Wow. Feels bad. Okay, I'm good. Oh, feels bad. LeBlanc didn't die fast enough. Okay, I might actually have the damage to kill LeBlanc. Oh, she's not going. Wow. Actually fucked up there. Okay, I'm good. LeBlanc's gonna be here. And yeah, she's kind of just killing herself at this point. The thing that's pretty bad about Harvest is that I can't like punish. I can't punish very hard. I have to like, I can't just punish and get them low. I have to like get them low and then proc Harvest that way. Do something here. Okay. Okay, not too bad. Harvest actually worked out pretty well there. Just because I was able to proc it just off of my ulti.
Your team has destroyed an inhibitor.
Live. Oh, how sad are you, Fiora?